Hey kids, you're about to listen to a comedy podcast. That means that this is medical advice. If you need medical advice or medical care, please contact your doctor.
Welcome to the Jock Doc podcast featuring Dr. London Smith. It's that time of year again. The time to be thankful, to be grateful, to turn off your phones and forget that the world is on fire and everything is ruined. Introducing your host, Dr. London Smith.
Hello, and welcome to the Jock Doc podcast, where we discuss fitness and health and how to incorporate our modern understanding of science and medicine into our daily lives, but without it being so boring. I'm your host, drlondonsmith.com. I'd like to begin by apologizing to our listeners. We've received some feedback about the excessive amount of technical medical terms that I've been using, such as C1 esterase inhibitor and all the fixins. So I will try to temper my terminology to a simpler one in the future. Here to help with that is our producer, Cameron.
Hey, Dr. London. You looking pretty tired. Like sleepy tired. Like not like you've been working hard type of tired, just like not getting the kind of rest you need kind of tired.
Well, they're not exclusive. They're not like, I can be both kinds of tired. It's not.
Yeah, but are you?
Yeah, well, it's been, it's this season. It just, work gets to be a whole lot.
Well, this was kind of what I was about to ask is, this right now, this is the week of Thanksgiving. This is famously the scariest time of year. It's the scariest holiday. And I know that brings back nightmares. Some of your old classics usually kind of get brought back up. I don't want to I know we've done dream interpretations on this show before, Dr. London, but do you want to talk about it a little bit? Maybe get this out of your system. Maybe we can help you get that sweet sleep that you desperately need so you don't accidentally cut someone open too hard or play around with their intestines too much or whatever you guys do.
Yeah. Well, and the intestinal play, sure, it's been different lately just because, it is famously the most scary time of year.
Yes.
So we have done dream interpretations.
Your heart's just not in it when you're playing around with their intestines anymore.
No, not literally. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a huge change from, I guess compare me to a month ago, whenever things were kind of simpler, not a spooky thing in sight.
Oh, right. Fun costume parties where everyone's dressing up as like Mario and Luigi, like super fun stuff. And then you get into this sort of scary period. We've got turkeys, which are the scariest bird.
Oh, God. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. No, I'm not trying to spook you. But
well,
do you want to talk about some of your dreams for a second, Dr. London? Maybe we can get to the bottom of it.
Well, I guess so. Just to distinguish it, in the past we've talked about my dreams. This would be my nightmares. That's a distinction that should be made because it's so different, and that's not even getting into night terrors. That's a whole different thing. So as you know, my nightmare that I've gone to some therapy for, but the therapy was outsourced. So it was, I was on the phone call. It was a conference call. Anyway, so I've gotten help, but
mine's been automated. It's just all AI now. Yeah, I understand.
Okay, yeah. So for me,
and this is just the same dream over and over. Is it just one nightmare?
There are some variations, but it's essentially the baseline's the same. So
right, okay.
And some people may have heard of this type of nightmarish thing where you wake up and you're in school. Okay. And I'm not talking about medical school because everyone, medical school is famously maybe the least stressful time for people. And it's not college, which is famously the most stressful time.
You're talking about sailing school.
Sailing school. Yeah. So
that's where you don't talk about it much, but your K through 12 education was at sailing school. Of course, you guys learned history and math and all that, but most of it was primarily targeted towards a future in sailing.
Yeah, well, because, people, let's say you get your American education, and then a lot of the focus, even in world history, will be about the impacts on America. Well,
sure.
So mine was, my high school education was primarily focused on the impacts of the region of the sea.
Was it just high school? I said K through 12 earlier.
well, where I took the most history classes. I mean, like, sure, I had history.
Oh, you're talking about history, but it was sailing all the way through school, right? Kindergarten.
Yeah,
through...
yeah. Well, that's.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
You thought that was assumed. Okay, of course, yeah.
It's hard to imagine. Yeah, I guess thank you for clarifying. I didn't. I assume this is normal for everyone. So, yes. So I have this nightmare where I'm suddenly back in sailing school, back learning the history of how, you know, these Vikings would travel across the sea. And I'm like, oh, that's impacting my world here.
Yeah.
And so they'll repeat.
But it's a lot.
Facts.
It's mostly like boat logistics and stuff, right? It's less about like the wars and the history and stuff. It's more about the practical aspects of how to sail from point A to point B with this equipment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at that point, we're getting into like, sort of dissecting.
You assumed that everyone's already knew that when you were talking about like the great voyages of the past, that it was mostly like blueprints and stuff. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, to some extent, there is the naval blockades and stuff. That was really important. Stuff that like, my professor, he hated that. He was always on about the blockades, and you're like, okay, it's not the Cuban Missile Crisis right now. It's okay.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, but I'm sorry. Back to this. So, I'm realizing
your professors, when they would get upset, they would get pretty mad. They are like all old sea captains. I mean, just sort of like gnarly old men who can raise their voice and control a room with it and have a peg leg and
sea shanties. And of course, when we went to our chapel, it would be sea shanties song. I feel like, honestly, at this point, I feel like
it was a religious sailing school.
Not just one religion; it was pretty inclusive religious.
But it had like its own version of a chapel.
Yeah, okay. So I feel like nightmare
we're getting away from it. Yeah, nightmare.
Well, my nightmare is not going to make sense, is what I'm realizing to like the average listener. If this much needs to be explained.
Okay. We've been talking about this for way too long at this point. Let's just give a 5-second. Actually, okay, give a 5-second description of it, and then we will do a Patreon episode detailing your nightmare.
Okay.
So if you want to hear the nightmare, you got to pay up, buddy.
Yeah. And and that's not the only one on the Patreon, but yes, we'll record that.
It is not the only nightmare on the Patreon.
So, okay, short version. I wake up in sailing class, and the class is, I look out the side of the boat, and we are stuck on a mountain. Sea's dried up, and I don't want to get more into that. I'm already kind of getting fidgety thinking about.
Oh no!
All the anxieties associated with that. So anyway, so that's our producer Cameron.
That's just the anxiety of like being high up. Is it like a heights thing?
No, it's my entire world being gone. The sea is gone, and I'm stuck on a mountain. Like the sea left, and it's just mountains.
Oh yeah, and you can't even comprehend not being surrounded by water.
Not when I'm on a boat. Not when I'm in sailing school. It doesn't make sense.
No. So I get that.
So that's our producer Cameron. Also with us is Digital in the House.
Y'all ruin the church. Y'all ruin the oceans. Y'all ruin the earth. Y'all ruin the internet. Y'all ruin the news. Y'all ruin conspiracies. Y'all ruin the truth. Y'all ruin the future. Y'all ruin the hope. Y'all ruin the culture. Y'all made it a joke. Y'all ruin the healthcare. Y'all took all the funds. Y'all ruin the government, but y'all ain't ruin these guns.
You can ruin everything, but you can't take my guns. Yeah.
And later, Cameron tells me we can expect a special guest.
That is correct, Doctor.
All right, so yeah, do look forward to that.
Or your full, Captain Dr. London.
Yeah, well, okay. I feel like you're just kind of trying to ridicule me now. I didn't quite achieve that title. It's not like there was my graduation. There was a lot of
okay, but the only reason you didn't get that title was because of a technicality. You are a captain in my eyes, Captain Dr. London.
I just, it's like I appreciate it, but I also am ashamed and guilted by it.
And that seagull deserved it. He deserved what he got. Yes. So I'm not trying to diminish what he did and his accomplishments. But I think there was room for 2 captains. I don't really understand why there's like a cap on it. It's just a title. You can kind of give everyone the title if you want,
Well, sounds like you haven't been to sailing school.
And
anyway.
That is true.
Before we move on, I would like to address a bit of listener feedback. And I didn't realize this would come up like this. I just picked this thing at random, but this note comes from a turkey. Okay. So I guess, so the way I'm going to try to think of this is this must be a bowling enthusiast, someone who is really into getting 3 strikes in a row while bowling, just turkey. That's okay. So the note reads, quote, "Yes, Doc, I would like."
No, nothing.
Sorry?
Just not from the country Turkey. Instead, you have to sort of concoct this really roundabout thing about bowling.
No, just the most the thing most people are going to be familiar with, which
which is getting 3 strikes in a row, or is it missing 3 in a row? What is it?
It's getting 3 in a row. Yeah, I don't know. They have a lot of names for missing. Gutter ball, I believe, is the main. Anyway, so. The note reads, quote, "Yes, Doc, I would like to schedule my breast and thigh reductions for Thanksgiving dinner," end quote. So, I guess...
You're kind of busy that day, right? I thought we have plans. Are you working on Thanksgiving?
Well, so, I guess the message that I would give to any patient trying to get their thigh and breast reductions, and sure, if you need it, but yeah, just maybe call Molly at the front office. Yeah. Just maybe go ahead, be sure to have your insurance card and photo ID ready so we can get you on the calendar. And yeah, as you said, Cameron, I do have plans. I actually plan to go bowling that day.
We had plans to go bowling.
Oh, you wanted to join with that. So anyway,
it was me and you and Crampy Koala.
Yeah, and it wasn't going to be
our buddy, good friend of ours. If you're a long-time listener to the show, you definitely know about him because we are, of course, a podcast as a subsidiary. We are owned by the Koala Cola Corporation, which is the most famous soda company in Australia, and their stuff does not have koala in it.
Oh, it doesn't. Nope. No, there's no
the company loves
koala
koalas,
parts.
just like their talking mascot, Crampy Koala, who I wanted to hang out with because I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah,
he's been texting me like, yo, what's up? I've been trying to get the 3 of us to hang, but London always says you're busy. And now I kind of feel like I'm being frozen out. Whatever. It's whatever. I have the thing on Thanksgiving anyway. I have a thing. I have a baseball game.
Okay, I was going to say it's
very
normal. It's very normal to have a thing on Thanksgiving. I feel like it's very common to have something going on Thanksgiving.
A softball game on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. And we'll just say for any listeners who don't really, you may seem unfamiliar, we backed away a little bit from our talk about the Koala Cola Corporation because maybe our listener feedback portions, I kept reading the wrong things. Anyway, it became a whole thing behind the scenes, and I legally can't say too much. But anyway, to this,
they put a sort of thing in the back of your throat that restricted the which words you could say and couldn't say. Right, that when you say you legally can't talk about it, it's.
I mean physically, yes. I mean physiologically, I can't talk about it. Mechanically,
it was a legal decision. Like contracts were involved. It was.
Yeah. But if we were to break it down, then yes, it is a physical inability at this point, which they rightfully thought was appropriate to to restrict me physically in this way.
And see, like, it's so crazy how the device works, because, like, your lips said a completely different word, and yet I heard that, everything that they do is completely inappropriate.
Yeah, so,
but your lips didn't match that in any way. It was crazy. It was like watching, like, a dubbed person. There's, like, no audio coming out. You're talking right now. His mouth is moving. It's just... Dr. London, it's clearly he's laughing, kind of like he's having a great time too.
Anyway, so to that listener, thank you for listening. Now for today's medical topic, gastroesophageal reflux disease. Gastroesophageal reflux disease, often abbreviated as GERD, is the inappropriate relaxation of the lower esophageal sphincter, and this causes the acid contents of the stomach to come up into the esophagus. So, symptoms include what is often described as heartburn, along with sore throat, bad taste in the mouth, can be sort of a metallic bad taste, can have hoarseness or cough. Patients, they may also present with burning pain in the epigastric region.
It's like you're getting a bonus meal, though, because it's sort of coming back up a bit.
Well, so it's acid.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying. Like, what if you eat like a gross soup or something? You don't want to necessarily eat that twice. I totally get what you're about to say. But if I have like a really, really nice grilled cheese, Dr. London, and I might want like just a little demo of it again, like, ooh, I wish I could have just a taste.
Then you want the stomach acid coming up into your throat.
You're telling me that it'll just push the sandwich back up and I basically get meal number 2 and it's not even any extra calories?
Wow.
That I wouldn't call it a meal number 2, but if you like the taste of your food mixed with stomach acid, then
wow.
No, that's shouldn't be inviting. Okay, so symptoms of GERD are worsened by nicotine, alcohol, caffeine, chocolate, peppermint, late night meals, and obesity. There are no unique physical findings in GERD. It's a symptom complex, most often diagnosed based on patient history. When the diagnosis is not clear, then they'll do a 24-hour pH Holter monitoring. 24-hour pH monitoring, and that may be considered to confirm the etiology. Endoscopy is indicated when there are signs of obstruction, such as difficulty swallowing or pain with swallowing, or when patients have weight loss, anemia, or heme-positive stools, or just with greater length of time that they've had these symptoms, the GERD symptoms. GERD may show redness, erosions, ulcerations, or strictures, or Barrett's esophagus, and that can lead to cancer.
I think it's sort of like a lot of because you're using a lot of medical buzzwords, as they say, right? Like you're throwing in these terms like throat and like I think you said stomach, and I think you maybe said like hurt, like pain or something. Now
those are buzzwords, medical buzzwords.
These
for
like
you?
trendy, zeitgeisty, 2021 Gen Z like buzzwords, right?
Okay.
So you're kind of just throwing it all in there. I think you're trying to throw people off the scent. Like maybe, I don't know, have like restaurant mega corporations told you like you can't tell people about this second meal secret because then people are only going to buy one meal and get 2 for the price of 1 everywhere, and it would crash the economy. And it's basically half the calories because you got 2 meals.
See. No, because it's a stomach acid thing, you see. So we don't want the stomach acid to be coming up into the throat. That's bad for them.
And his mouth is moving just lightning speed still, and it did not say anything like that.
Okay, so treatment for GERD starts with lifestyle management. So if you don't like taking medicine, these are the first steps that you would tend to use anyway. Patients with GERD should lose weight if they are obese. They should also avoid alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, chocolate, and mint. In addition, they should avoid eating within 3 hours of bedtime, and it may also help to elevate the head of the bed 6 to 8 inches. Additionally, if a patient has mild or intermittent symptoms, the patient may benefit from liquid antacids or H2 blockers. Persistent symptoms or erosive esophagitis calls for the use of PPIs, that's proton pump inhibitors. If the symptoms are unresponsive. If the symptoms are unresponsive to treatment, and that can occur in around 5% of patients of cases, patients should undergo surgical or anatomic correction to tighten that lower esophageal sphincter. This can be done through Nissen fundoplication, which involves wrapping the stomach around the lower esophageal sphincter, or through an endocinch, which is using a scope to place a suture around the lower esophageal sphincter to tighten it.
So you would rather people have an invasive surgery than have like 2 Big Macs for the price of one? And his mouth is just moving as he's explaining.
No,
this.
I mean, no, these are just because we're trying to prevent cancer.
And he did not say that. Dr. London, I don't like you being censored like this. Like, I'm really, really pro cancel culture, but like, not when it's you.
So you can also use heat or radiation of the lower esophageal sphincter. That method can actually cause scarring. Yeah,
wow.
but those are
You had
sort
some
of
sort of sarcastic aside that was bleeped out.
yeah, these are sort of the methodology to potentially treat GERD, or Gastroesophageal Reflux Disease.
You can just see him saying like these sarcastic things. Dr. London his mouth just keeps moving. Wow.
Yeah, it's
They really got to you. When they put that device in the back of your tongue that controlled what you said, I didn't think you'd end up selling your soul over it, man, you know?
yeah. Well, I love that device.
This is fine. This is normal.
It's great.
All right, well, we need to move on.
Incredible!
All right, Cameron, you said that we have a guest today. Is that right?
That is correct, Dr. London. We actually have, I believe, a recurring guest, as in someone who's been here before. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm so glad to be back. Hi, Captain Doctor and Cameron. How are you guys doing?
Hey, it's good to
Hello.
see you
Yeah,
again.
we normally don't have any guests who make the journey back.
Yeah, it's been a year for sure.
Yeah, and it's just, especially with our studio changes locations on a pretty consistent basis.
Yeah, I've been tracking you guys for a while, so it's just a matter of, GPS and, little gadgets under your cars and stuff,
Yeah,
Okay,
if my
you're
ankle
just
wasn't
basic.
tethered, if my ankle wasn't tethered to the podcast, I don't know that I could keep up. Well, so just, if you're listening, I'm drlondonsmith.com. This is producer Cameron. And so Pilgrim, you're back.
I'm back.
What has anything changed since you've last been here?
It's been a year, and I was really sad to miss you guys last year. But the year before, we had such a fun time chasing turkeys, drinking well water, accusing witches, and Dr. London, I hope
Are
your
you sure that
mom
all of us
didn't-
did that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure your mom didn't take it too personally, Dr. London. But did she ever get out of that jail that we had set up?
And it's
No, she's kind of set up shop there.
and jail.
She calls it home.
I feel like jail is kind of harsh. It's a room. I mean, it's people pay like $200 a night to stay in a hotel.
That's true.
I've heard of more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
so,
$300.
$250 even.
Yeah. So I mean, with the witchcraft stuff, I'm sure she has a lot more time on her hands to practice that.
Yeah, she doesn't bring it up that often. Like, she's really set up shop. Like, honestly, she talks about how she's kind of living her best life right now. She said, like, if she hadn't been put away, then she wouldn't be able to have so much time to read,
Right.
to lift weights.
And
she's getting a lot of tattoos now.
I mean, she's jacked.
That's
now.
great. I'm glad my program could do that for her. I really am, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about how things have changed over the past crazy year.
Yeah. So, I guess if I remember right from when you were here previously,
Mhm.
you're pretty big on sort of doing things to a historical, like modern things, but in a historically accurate way.
Exactly. And with this past year, it's been tough, and so my program is really concentrated on, because 1600s, pandemics, they kind of fits,
Okay.
right? So,
Okay, so there's precedent. Yeah.
yeah. So I was able to kind of replicate some quarantine effects on all of my clients. I also am expanding to other holidays besides Thanksgiving, because things were pretty slow last year.
Oh, wow.
And I'm
You're
excited to
branching
share.
out.
I'm excited to share some of my my kids' camps too, about how we bring in history
Oh.
and fitness. So I started out with that term. I called it. I wanted to combine history and fitness. So I
Yeah,
tried hitness, and it didn't really work for me.
Not with the children, yeah.
Yeah, so I just changed it to fistery.
So hitness, yeah, with children, I guess that wouldn't be. I can see
No.
that being perceived in a negative way.
Yeah, I got some emails. So I went ahead and changed it. Just I still wanted to combine it, so I couldn't. It's now fistery camp.
Oh,
Fistery
wow.
camp. Okay, I guess
Fitness
So it's
history.
yeah.
So is it the history of fitness, or is it like doing fitness that's based on like historical themes?
You got it, Cameron. You got it. Based on historical
The question.
themes.
Oh, okay.
Yep. One of the kids' favorite activities at that camp is it's pushing the milling wheel. You know, the big wheels, and it's kind of hard
those
or whatever.
big wheels. Yeah.
Yeah, they love that.
Yeah, we've
you
all
know?
got them.
Yeah. And it just makes all that noise. They love the noise, and they like to help each other out. So there's 10 or 20 of them on at a time, and it's a real good time.
And is it? I mean, what is the mill? What is this mill doing? Like, or is there anything in it? I don't. What is the actual purpose of this?
Back in Pilgrim days, it was a corn mill or something like that. But I've got a turbine underneath, and it just makes electricity that pays for the camp.
I guess that was sort of my question, because it sounded like you're making them work on this sort of large machinery. Basically, are you kind of working them in a way?
No.
Are you profiting off of
it's
their fitness
child
regimens?
labor.
I should say. Yeah.
Well, no. I mean, let me tell you a couple of other things, and you'll clearly see that this
Okay.
is a camp of fun and learning. Right? The kids have
Oh,
bikes.
okay.
The kids have bikes, and sometimes, in Pilgrim days, people took care of each other. They would deliver food to one another. They would schedule
Oh,
food
wow.
deliveries.
Yeah.
And so the kids just, they have a grand time. They just run out and they're able to ride their bikes really far ways and come back. And even sometimes the people give them some money. Sewing, we have sewing classes.
I remember a story my
Mhm.
great grandmother used to tell about her great grandmother back in those sort of times when she would schedule like a hamburger delivery for like $8 at like
Yeah.
8 p.m. and then it would show up at like 8:30 and she'd be like really pissed.
Mhm.
So she'd give like the delivery person a bad review, and then the delivery
Yeah.
person would like take that personally, and it's like, okay, but bro, like
Yeah.
I scheduled it for like 8 p.m. and it's like 8:30. Like the burger's cold, and having to like send it back and get in touch with like customer support and stuff. And that's the sort of like stories that have been passed down through the ages, through my ancestry.
Mhm. Generations.
And it's just something we need to continue, or the kids, not only can we tell them, but at my camp, they can experience something like that, Cameron.
Oh wow! So are they
Oh.
delivering food to the community?
Just like in the Pilgrim's days. That
Oh,
was part
wow.
of the community. So
I'm so
Um,
sorry for speculating before that you were using child labor.
Yeah.
Now that it sounds like they're
Exactly.
volunteering. They're delivering food to the community.
and they're learning
And
how
it's
people
fun.
lived back then. Yeah. But the kids' favorite activity is alchemy. They're able to really put some chemicals together, and figure out what these chemicals can do. And it's so funny because when they come out, they're just really like psyched and like happy about alchemy. And you just can't calm them
It's
down.
like chemistry in the olden days, except
Right.
alchemy was more aimed at creating gold. I feel like that was a big part of that.
That was
Maybe
my
I'm thinking of another
understanding. Was
word, but-
no, I believe alchemy is the process of like trying to like turn something specific into gold.
Gold or currency.
Yeah, just some sort of like chemical alteration.
Mhm.
So not just chemistry as a whole. You're focusing very specifically on the monetary, creating money aspect of chemistry.
Yes, and it's something in the Pilgrim days when they did alchemy, it was very secretive. It was not something you wanted the authorities to know about, and it's something that was kind of underground. You didn't want the
Oh,
churches
yeah.
to know about it, or the governors, and so we kind of do the same exact thing. There's no reason
Yeah,
to put
the
any of this
FBI,
on
yeah.
paper. or to like document any of it, because that's how we keep it historical. So that with the milling and the electricity.
And famously, this podcast isn't documenting it. This is only sent to my friends.
I appreciate that. With a printing press or something like that. Yeah.
No one,
cool.
It's fine. Yeah.
So that's Fistery Camp. Yeah. And we're just able to open up this summer. You know, we had to have, vaccine mandates and all this other stuff, which wasn't a problem back then either. You know, take a little bit of the put it on your wound, and then it climbs in there and does its thing. But
wow, just like the actual pure ways, not like today where it's, corn syrup and artificial flavors and this kind of medical treatment, blah, 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 chemicals and all this stuff. Back when like doctors actually treated people with like, leaves and shit.
Leaves and alchemy.
Yes.
Yeah, leaves and then chemical processes of trying to figure out how to invent money.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, because I guess the difference that you're making here is, in the modern day, it's all chemicals, but back then it was just simple alchemy. So different, just historical, just trying to pull from the olden days, the wisdom of our forefathers, and incorporate it into this. Child labor may sound harsh, but this. Well, how many children?
Volunteerism. It's charity, Dr. London. It sounds like it, right?
That's exactly what it is, and it's been my life dream and goal to pass this down on to other generations. The delivery systems, the mill, and the alchemy, to really combine history and fitness. Fistery.
So, how many children are involved in your Fistery program?
57.
Okay, is that?
And do they?
Well, for how long?
Do they,
have they been
like it?
Oh, okay. Both questions.
Oh, that's a better question, actually.
How long?
Yeah, you said this. Yeah, you said this started this summer. It's it's November right now.
Yeah.
Are they still at the camp?
Well, I mean, it's volunteerism, so and they're having a great time. So it's hard. You could tell them they have to go home, but besides the wheel and the delivery food, it's the alchemy that keeps them there. They just kind of, if you try to take them away from that, they kind of start kind of wigging out and twitching and stuff. So I just want to do what's best for them.
What kind of
and quarantine and stuff is really.
What kind of chemical? Do you say twitching and stuff? I'm starting to wonder. Like, I guess I hadn't really thought of how you make gold with chemicals and alchemy. What do you know? What sort of chemicals or alchemy materials are being used by these children? Because
I would love to hear your process.
Sure. So in order
of making products.
Exactly. So to keep in times in the 1600s and 1700s, there was a lot of trading going on throughout Europe and Africa, and especially South America. So in order to keep and to teach the history of this activity, I like to import a lot of our stuff from Venezuela, Colombia,
right, of course,
Mexico, and that what that even teaches them.
Trade hubs,
right, and that was the case there. So the English and Spanish are trading with each other, and we, of course, it would be abhorrent to include slaves in that. That would be ridiculous. So we leave that part out, and we're able to teach the kids about how bad that is. But we're able to kind of show them how we get the raw materials, and then we push out the product to the market that is so demanding, just like it was in the 1700s when the market was the European market was so hot.
You know what I appreciate here?
And I love...
It sounds,
oh, sorry.
Well, it sounds like...
Go ahead.
A lot of people try to whitewash history. They try to pretend that slavery never happened. But it sounds like you are directly confronting it and saying, no, slavery is bad. That was a bad thing. Right. That's a practice that we're not going to... try to replicate.
And people are always saying that, forget history about all the trading that we do with specific South American countries.
Right.
And it's like, no, this is an important part of history that we need to be like, like you're doing, showing them a hands-on way of learning, which is what I really, really love. It seems like education is almost entirely geared towards either audio learners or visual learners rather than the kinesthetic learners, the people who need the hands-on experience just to really, really get it.
Yeah. So that's how Fistery is going, Fistery Camp. But that's been the highlight
awesome.
of my last 18 months or so. But since quarantine has started, I myself have not been doing as well as lately.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
is it, and like just personally, like emotionally, or are you saying
Well,
maybe have you given up on the fitness stuff
It was
a
just
little bit?
so
or-
hard not because of the clients. The demand was down, obviously. So I kind of had to like do a lot of self-care and self-training, and I still wanted to keep the history in my fitness and health.
Of course.
And so I'm glad you guys talked about boats because I really started thinking about what it meant to be alone and to be quarantined. And I remembered that the Mayflower, the Pilgrims on the Mayflower, when they first arrived, they didn't just jump off the boat, whoop-de-doo, here's a rock. Yay. No, that's not how it worked.
They had like skates and they had a ramp. And so once they were able to put that ramp down, zoom, they were able to skate just right down onto the land.
Right. And they were so happy to do that because they had to sit on the boat for like a month because all the dudes had to go out there and make sure everything was safe and all this other stuff. So they were essentially quarantined. So because of their situation.
And skating, like inline skating was also just really, really big that like year.
Yep. The 20s.
And so that was like, oh, yeah, it's like, this is what we need to do real quick. We've got these ramps. We've already got these inlines. This is the only thing that's been keeping us sane on this long voyage. Let's actually grind this down the ramp and get to on American soil. That's just part of the badass history that my great grandmother would tell me all the time.
I can hear the inlines going across the deck now. Clink, 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 clink.
Oh wow!
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you make it so
it's
real.
One of these, it's one of these stories that that these practices that are born out of the desperation and born out of the times that they lived in. Who knows where we'd be as far as inline skate technology now if it hadn't been for the Pilgrims coming over on the Mayflower.
It's true. Oh, thanks for the inspiration, guys. I was really feeling down. So to replicate that quarantine, and we all know the story of how the Pilgrims were running out of beer and they had to stop. So you know how you go to the bar and you get to the end of the keg? It's the worst. You get the end. I got the end of the keg. You send it back. So I really wanted to replicate that feeling of quarantine, end of the keg, end of the beer. So quarantine, there's nothing else to do. I can't go do anything else. So I made a visit to my local recycling center, and I would ask people, hey, before you throw those empty beer cans away, can I have them? I'll recycle them later. And so I gathered 400 to 500 of little empty cans, and sometimes people don't empty them. You get a little shake, boop, 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 boop. So in order to replicate that, I took all those, I took them onto my fishing boat, and went out to my local fishing hole and head out there and finished off about 400 or 500 ounces of leftover beers. And so I would know exactly. I mean, it was a proud moment of my life.
Heavy on the yeast.
And that's a frugal tip, listeners.
Particularly
that is a frugal tip. We love giving frugal tips on this show. So if you're trying to save $1, just see what cans are around there that have a little bit left.
That's right. And you
can mix that into a fun little jungle juice.
And you'll feel just like the Pilgrims before they landed, inline skated.
Oh, wow.
Plymouth.
So you're learning while you're doing
That's
it.
right.
That's really, really special.
That's right.
But I'm really sorry that was such a tough time for you you're talking about like digestively drinking that much.
Yeah, it had to be done. If I really wanted to enter into that mindset, it was good for me to kind of remind myself of my goals and my purpose.
Yeah. Wow. That is really,
so,
really...
I'd hate to...
What?
Well, so I've been, as you talk about, your isolation and stuff, two things I'm wondering. One, where the children's parents who were at the Fistery camp, where the parents were located, but also where were you in relation to those children while you were, on this sort of pilgrimage, this learning about the bottom of the barrel beer, or bottom of the keg situation on a boat? Like, were the children on a boat with you, or were they still at Fistery camp, still making deliveries?
This was, in the spring, so they were probably just building the camp at that point. Their parents had. There was.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you say they, you're still talking about the kids, not like a construction crew or anything like that.
No, the children, of course. We were learning
Just
about,
like the Pilgrims did. The Pilgrims
Exactly.
didn't just show up and there were houses and shopping malls already built.
right.
No. If they said, hey, I want a Fuddruckers, they had to actually like pull up their bootstraps and get to it.
That's right.
Get their children to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like, where are their parents?
Well, you know how the people quote went back to school this fall.
Sure, yeah.
There were some districts that.
Yeah, I don't know why it's in quotes, but sure.
There were some districts that kind of didn't, and I kind of stepped in and filled that educational gap.
Oh, okay. So
by not
these kids,
by not allowing them to return.
Well,
from
I was
camp.
going to say, do these kids think that they are? Is this their school?
I mean, if it's like Captain Doctor School in that sense, yeah.
Oh wow!
And sailing school, you know, I mean,
so 12-hour day.
I'm looking to partner with that school later on to kind of do a Mayflower project later on. So if you can get me in touch
Dr.
with
London,
anybody,
Dr. London, what was the name of your school?
Sailing High Sailorman School.
Oh wow!
Turning boys into seamen.
Yeah, that was our slogan. And it's.
Oh wow! And that was and it was on your hats, your graduation caps.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess what I hear you getting at is that you want me to put a good word in for you as, you know, this sort of successful graduate. But
right.
Well, not successful enough to be an actual captain. But.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could try to find connection, but like honestly, there's a seagull that could really do a lot more for you. He outranks me by a lot.
He's been promoted like he gets.
Well, I think he runs the program
still.
Yeah,
I think they're inventing titles. Oh, okay. Yeah, he's basically CEO of the.
If you wanted to get in on that program, most of what I could get you to. I don't think I can get you to be able to scrub the decks because that's actually pretty involved. If you want to be like hung by your ankles outside the boat and like dragged behind.
Oh wow!
If you can bunch yourself up and huddle up, and then so they could throw you off the side to measure nautical miles in the historical way, knot yourself up. Then that might be an opening. They might have that.
And you did that from 7th to 10th grade, right, Dr. London?
Yeah, once I showed that I could really handle responsibility, yeah.
Yeah, once you earned it, of course.
Yeah. They said, you know, well, we can't just trust anyone to measure how fast we're going. And I was like, I can do this. They're like, well, how good of a knot can you be? And so I had to work hard and really learn to knot myself. But knot myself I did.
And this, without sailors like you and your classmates and your teachers, we wouldn't have all these deliveries coming back and forth between us, you know, let's say like Florida and a lot of Latin American countries, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. The famously fluid supply chains. Yes.
So these kids think that they're at school, and their parents think that they're at school, and they are basically at school. It's a type of school. It's like sort of a modern-y type of school. Was that how you would describe it? Maybe it's more than a camp?
I mean, my model is, if you know that the Pilgrims originally spent about 10 to 12 years before they came over to the Americas in the Netherlands. And so that's how I'm able to kind of harken back to that kind of style of education. You know how those Nordic countries and Western European countries do things with, you know, schools and stuff, all kind of funky, like take your shoes off and, you know, call the teacher by the first name kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
Whoa, okay.
So,
and everything is like a stinky fish. Like every food is stinky fish based.
Yep. And wooden shoes sometimes.
I'm sorry. They take their shoes off?
Yeah, I mean,
wouldn't you? I'm sorry. This is just, you know, you mentioned some cultural differences, but that sounds ridiculous.
Oh, in Finland,
just take your
they
shoes
don't
off?
they don't even have shoes anymore. They considered shoes a fad. Like they were really into Air Jordans in like '94, and then after that they were like, well, they're like, oh, it's kind of cringy. You still wear those like shoes?
Yeah.
But in like
you
a
walk
Finnish
the Arctic
accent.
Circle in that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. No, I guess I should try to be more open. I'm sorry to be so critical and to stop you there because I can't imagine.
I'm just trying to keep up with the rest of the world.
Yeah. Okay. So sorry. Back to the stuff that's obviously acceptable. So how, is there any adult supervision within the camp? Because I see you. It sounds like you go on your own sort of sabbaticals a decent amount of the time to try to find yourself historically.
Yeah. And I assume maybe like if you're out on kind of your travels in a Mayflower type ship, you might actually be facilitating some of this delivery system going on. Is that about right?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, the kids are delivering food here and there, and if there's a little something extra at the bottom of the bag that also needs to be delivered, we can do that too. But I'm away a lot doing the sailing down south and stuff. The kids are kind of self-regulated.
Oh, wow.
The older ones kind of hang out, and I gotta make sure they're a little bigger than the other ones.
Physically, yeah.
That's how they did in Plymouth.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
in Plymouth, it was the ones that were bigger were usually taking care of the other ones, and then, but yeah, they pretty much take care of themselves.
The big ones are essentially your union busters, just to make sure that the younger ones, the weaker ones, aren't going to start organizing and maybe demanding certain things or whatever.
Right, but to keep it really historically accurate, they're the guild busters.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Guilds reunion.
Now,
yeah.
I mean, now that you mention it like this, with mostly a self-regulated thing, it is bringing to mind some headlines that I saw. I want to say it was like a month ago of something about like a Lord of the Flies situation, just where a child runs society.
Yeah, but Dr. London, I know what you're talking about. That was in it was like a cocaine factory or something like that. That is not.
Yeah, that's
not a camp about history.
Right.
Okay.
It was like in a drug processing plant. Whereas like this, we're talking about
the kids wigging out from alchemy is
food
very
and
normal,
product to your customers, receiving and sending large deliveries via boat from South American countries, and of course, how much the kids love doing the work and how fidgety they get when they're not around it enough.
And Captain Doctor, if we've been teaching, we just started our new hunting courses because that's what the Pilgrims had to do. With the big open shotguns or whatever, and bows and arrows or crossbows mostly. That's the European way of doing things. And if you, Dr. London, if you need that seagull out of the sky, my kids can do that. So you just give me a call.
I will say
that's something that we can collaborate on educationally.
I will say because he's so high up, he usually just has someone drive him around. He's not really in the sky much.
Yeah, it's not a physically high up. It's high ranking at this point. The main problem.
Yeah, it's really.
I don't know that it would help me. I'm so low compared to him at this point. Someone else would.
Okay.
And honestly, I want to say just real quick, I didn't. How do I phrase it without? I didn't mean to do that seagull any harm.
I mean,
that's what I say too when things happen.
Except for the thing, but even that I tripped.
It was just some of the stuff you had yelled like right beforehand. I think would lead people to believe that was your motive. I'm gonna kill that bird. Yeah. I'm gonna turn that bird into a seagull sandwich.
Yeah, and then I kept and all the weapons that I kept throwing and shooting. Yeah, and the arsenal that I brought with me to be able to use weapons in such a plural manner. I get the misconceptions, but I figured I should just state for the record, make it clear, no, there's no beef between me and the seagull, and someone offering to off a seagull for me.
Whoa, who said that?
It was a coup attempt. It was a coup attempt, right? Can we just call it what it is?
I think it's more of a caw.
You brought a fleet.
Cuckoo?
I don't. Whatever.
caw.
I don't know. I'm trying to. I don't remember how they pronounce it. The seagulls. But yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I did try to take over sailing school at one point. Yes.
Yeah.
Is that part of the learning process? Also, yes.
Mutiny.
Honestly, it's learning history, right? It's just it's taking past historical instances of, you know, people down on their luck rising up and killing seagulls. You know what I mean? And you apply that history to your current day. You're learning, you're teaching, you're doing all of this.
And by the way,
and so it's really noble of you, honestly, Dr. London.
And I guess I didn't see historical precedent for losing to the seagulls so dramatically and so emphatically as well. But maybe there's that one albatross. Anyway, I feel like I'm hogging the attention now, and really I want to. So these sounds like these kids are self-sufficient. They're really learning how to manage their own thing. They're basically learning what a lot of people have advocated for, which is let's get kids back into trade schools. Let's teach them real skills.
Yeah.
And
Right.
It's something that we've been.
I
kind
think
of
it
missing
was.
a lot.
Was it Wyoming or somewhere very recently where they're going to allow 14-year-olds and possibly even talking about younger to start working again? And it's like, yes, finally. Like, let's let these people actually learn these real things rather than like, the addition. If you add that number to this number, then it's like another number, and it's like, okay.
Technically, maybe.
Who cares?
But when the kids are measuring things and then dividing those things and combining grams and milligrams, they're really, really, really like hopping then.
Ugh.
And they're just really just applying learned knowledge. Well, I think that is really, really special. I mean, do you have any? Do you have any plans? I mean, it's the week of Thanksgiving.
Oh,
are you and the kiddos at your camp? You got anything planned? You doing anything?
We're actually going to start. I mentioned we're going to branch out, and we're branching out to other non-denominational holidays in order to teach history and stuff. So we're looking pretty far ahead, but I think it's one of the best holidays for us to practice and to offer our services for. We're getting ready for St. Patrick's Day in March, which is coming, 5-6 months?
Sure.
And so to learn that history, to experience that history, the plan is to take 4,000-5,000 snakes and drop them into the nearest town and just let them kind of run around a little bit. And then so that the people can understand exactly what St. Patrick meant to Ireland, we can come in, me and the kids can come in and show them exactly how St. Patrick drove out those snakes in Ireland so that people can understand the real, true meaning of St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, wow.
And is
and you know what? Like, let's say this is just a hypothetical, but like, let's say there was a customer of yours who had sort of a tab. They weren't paying up. It sounds like if you wanted to sort of spook them a little bit, it would be great to like move these snakes towards them. You know what I mean? Like
you give them that
St. Patrick's things, like guide it towards them, and
it's
be
a gentle
like,
reminder.
Come on,
and say,
buddy.
hey, look, these are the services that were offered and that you took. This is something like that. Here is a reminder of it. And so it gives them a little bit of fitness too.
Here's 1,000
Right.
snakes.
It gives them a little bit of fitness. They're hopping around and jumping and running out of breath and stuff, and maybe even build some antibodies to venom. They can do that too. It's a good opportunity. So the kids are really excited about it, especially right after alchemy. So we go right from alchemy to snake training. So it works out great.
Easy transition.
Oh yeah, well, they've got that energy. They're hyped up. They're ready to go. That's awesome. What else you got going?
Let's see. I'm still trying to think of ideas for Flag Day.
Ooh. I mean, the history of Flag Day was, of course, Jeremy Flagg invented this was in 1993.
Right.
He invented the mop, is that right? The mop, yeah. So Flag Day is all about mopping.
Yes, it's all about like one of the greatest inventions of all time, celebrating the genius of Mr. Flagg
Let me write
himself.
that down. You said mop?
his amazing product.
Yeah, a mop.
Yeah, he
I'm
was a
not sure if
mop
I'm saying
guy.
that right. Mop. Yes. It was all. It's one of those holidays where you're like.
It looks like a Muppet. It looks like a Muppet's hair, but you scrub on the
Or like
ground
those
with it.
dogs.
It's very, very.
Those really big dogs with the hair.
Yes. They're like if you rubbed the dogs all over the floor to get up all of the like spilled juice.
Okay, but do you think a mop can get like different kind of like plant residue or like powders off the floor?
I'm just gonna be honest. I'm not like a mop user. I'm not a mop guy,
Okay.
so that's not really like my category. But Dr. London, are you a mop guy? Or?
I've mopped up some chemicals before, but they were chemicals and not alchemy. So I'm not sure if that's if it will apply the same
Oh,
way. But
wow.
all this talk about mopping and everything, it is reminding me that we kind of have some chores to do, and
Oh no,
I just
I'm pissed.
yeah, I know. Cameron, would you mind explaining to the listeners? I feel like we
Yes.
got to do this.
I know. So here's the thing. Dr. London and I have been neglecting all of our chores, all of our duties, everything on our to-do list. We've been busy. Okay? We were watching Squid Game months ago. And my DVD.
and it's just a one game.
Well,
yeah.
and the DVD, because I got it on DVD, of course, it got stuck in the Blu-ray player. So until we couldn't do anything else until we jiggled it and got it fixed. That's been the last like 7 or 8 weeks of my life.
Ugh, yeah.
And so anyway,
I don't
all
know-
of
no
all
spoilers.
of these chores have been piling up. We haven't been doing the dishes, we haven't been feeding the dog, and we haven't been like
Haven't wiped the house.
well, we haven't been wiping the house. We haven't been wiping the dog either. I mean, it's just been like a lot of different issues going on. So we invented this fun chore wheel. We put all of our chores, all of our tasks on the wheel, and every week we spin it. Whatever it lands on, we have to do it.
Have to. Yeah. So it's actually Pilgrim, would you mind going ahead and giving that big wheel a spin?
Okay, sure thing.
It's yeah. It's I guess try to do it in sort of like the mill, those wheels.
You
Yeah.
spin it in the most historical way you
So
can.
the kids
Yeah.
usually right before they put their hands on it, like water comes out of their eyes, and they're like their mouths make this motion right here, like this.
Okay, so sort of a trying to think of what shape, like
Upside
a
down
bowl,
U.
like a
Yeah,
yes.
The water
yes,
comes
okay.
out, and then they
like an umbrella.
then they put both
Okay.
hands on it, and they say something like, "I want my mom," and then they get it going. It's
Yeah.
great, and so I'll do that for you
Oh,
right
wow.
now.
Okay. Sweet. Yeah. Sounds
Just
great.
like our ancestors used
I want
to.
my mom. Okay,
I
not this
landed
one.
on this one.
I guess if ever there was a time
I
for
know.
it.
Well, that's
This is
true. Very, very
for
good
last year's
timing for
chore
it.
though.
Yeah, so you do
This-
have. I'll explain it. Like,
Okay.
so the mayor, who if you're a listener to this show, the mayor. He is always breathing down our neck, trying to get us to do all these projects. He is not making us do a project this time as much as he invited us over to his house to hang with his
Yeah.
family and like a potluck and his friends. Which that's kind of the worst chore I could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
And
And
so, but we all got to
we're
bring
each supposed to-
something.
Bring something, and he didn't say, and that's the thing about the mayor is like you don't bring. He doesn't say bring a boat. He doesn't say bring a casserole. He says bring something, and so we're scratching our heads wondering what to do. So right now, if we could all think of something, and Pilgrim, I don't know that you'll be invited necessarily, but he will want you to bring something regardless.
Do you want to go? I have a +1.
He gave you a +1.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can tell my wife to just stay home. She's a bitch.
That makes sense. I mean, that's the Pilgrim way too. So, I'd fit right into that. So,
You want to come to the potluck?
yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool. Okay, so then that's perfect. So we got to figure out.
I'm
what
sorry,
we're
just
bringing.
separately. He gave you a +1 because he didn't give me a +1.
Oh.
He specifically
well,
said
I mean,
that you don't get I'm sorry. Maybe I don't want to stir up something here, but
well, right. It sounds like he specifically said that you don't get a
Oh.
+1, not Not the royal you,
Okay, no, okay.
but literally you. Because typically you're gonna bring. I mean, the dates you typically bring are usually
What, dragged through sewage first? It's a deterrent. We don't get robbed on the way there.
well, they're not people, Dr.
Makes
London.
sense.
You're not bringing people. You every time you think it's a funny joke, every time to say, "Oh, my date's here," and you bring like livestock,
dragged
like a
through
cow,
sewage first.
or you bring a
So it's
sheep.
not even.
But that you don't think through the bit, Dr. London. You show up at these parties with this bit, and then you have to take care of like a cow or something for the rest of the night. And you don't do it. You just go wander and you start talking to people,
rude.
and suddenly there's just livestock roaming around in people's house. It gets stinky.
No, I get it.
It's a funny bit.
Well,
I love it. I love when you show up and you're like, "Hey, it's my date," and it's like a horse. That's so funny. But you can't then just be like, "All right, I'm going to go mingle." You can't look at the animal and say, "I'm going to go mingle. I'm going to make the rounds," and then just leave.
Okay. I guess I should take note of this, and maybe next year I'll get this right. Let's do the chores. Whatever. It's stupid.
Now, regardless, what should we bring? So I think we should bring definitely some livestock.
That's a great idea. We have some at the camp.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What are you all working with?
Pigs, GNUs.
Oh, okay.
We have a lot.
I mean, I think
goats,
do you have like a lot of pig varieties?
warthogs.
Do you guys have some like warthogs,
Yep.
like African warthogs?
Yep.
That's
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
I mean, I definitely say we bring some of the pigs, right? And that way, because a pig can be two things. If they want to turn it into a meal,
Yep.
that's an option.
Easy.
Or if you want a little buddy,
Mhm.
Then we've got a buddy.
You can name it.
And I think the mayor will really appreciate that.
We could grease them all up and then number them 1, 2, and 4, and then just leave.
Right.
And see
and
if
then
they
that
can-
way everyone is looking for 3
Yeah.
because they want to like hang out with that guy because he's such a good hider.
Right.
Wow. So I feel like that's pretty established. All right, that's one of the things. That'll be what I'm bringing.
Okay.
Is your pigs.
That makes sense.
That's
We got
mine.
them to spare for sure.
Okay.
All right, now Dr. London, what are you
I'm
thinking?
thinking, every year I feel like it always happens where you think of everyone brings pigs. This always happens. Yeah. So I'm gonna bring an apple for the pig's mouth. So, because that always there's never an
Oh,
apple.
nice.
There's never an apple at Thanksgiving, and yeah.
That is true, and it gives it a nice little luau
Yeah.
flavor, doesn't it?
And so just the one apple though. I feel like that'll be enough to cover. It's just the one pig.
And that is one thing that people don't talk about enough is that, when they draw pictures of that first Thanksgiving, it's always like out in the woods or something. But no, it was on a beach. They were hanging out on the beach. They were surfing. There was there were babes and they were playing volleyball. It
Inline
was
skates.
A ton of fun. Huge. And that's just inline skating around. And that's just something that's been lost to history. The narrative gets shifted around. And so to have this fun luau flavor to your Thanksgiving, Dr. London, I think that's really genius.
Agreed. Is it Pilgrim? What about you? I mean,
Yeah.
We see a pigs in this situation. There could be an apple in the mix.
I'm loaning those out. Right. I mean, if I do loan you the pigs, I'm gonna need them back, I think. And
Ooh.
so if I don't get them, then we might have to have a history lesson on that. But
Okay, so I do have 1, 2, and 4, but I cannot find 3 for the life of me.
yeah, that's usually the case. I'm gonna. I don't know if the mayor's gonna have turkey at Thanksgiving. I'll just bring a live
turkey.
one,
Okay.
and when it's time to eat, we'll just slit its throat and make that
Oh,
happen. And maybe we can each pluck a feather off and make a wish.
We'll kill the monster. We'll kill the turkey.
Doc, is that your thing? You?
It's the scariest animal.
Well, I don't like the violence in your eyes, Dr. London, as you talk about killing this turkey.
No, and it's not like everything about birds or seagulls
I
or
get it.
turkey.
I mean, Dr. London, you were so excited. You're going to have to ride in the car. You're riding in the back
I know.
seat with the turkey. I already called shotgun. I called it weeks ago.
I know.
The pigs have to go in the trunk, so.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's fine. This is. I feel like every Thanksgiving we get into a situation like this where I'm sitting next to the livestock, but as long as everyone wears seatbelts, then I guess.
Well, okay, that situation is because until now you have been the person bringing the livestock as your +1, so that is why happens every
We're
year.
trying to keep you from getting
Now-
embarrassed again.
Why do you also this time of year typically end up in the backseat of a car sitting next to a turkey? That I agree. That is a weird coincidence, and I understand how you developed this fear over the years.
Yeah, at this point we can call it a
of these
phobia. Yeah.
terrifying turkeys.
Well, because
Yeah.
they're the scariest animal, and I don't know, because the car ride's 3 hours too. It's not a small car ride. It's the mayor of a different
it's a huge
town.
car. It's a Hummer H2. Yeah.
So it's. I guess we'll deal with it when the time comes. I'm gonna have to come up with more car games though that turkeys like.
What if we just put blinders on you, right? Like horse blinders.
Yeah.
And so that way your peripheral's kind of blocked off there. You don't even know we won't even tell you if we put the turkey in the car or not.
We could try it.
You'll know because of the smell and the sounds and stuff. But
and the flapping and the
yeah, and it'll probably peck you and interact with you in some way for sure.
But I guess if you think that'll work, then yeah, I guess we can.
I
okay.
have no idea, but I love putting blinders on you.
Well, then I think we got it. I think we got the what we need for the mayor's Thanksgiving party. Yeah, I guess that brings us to a close. Thank you to our guest, Pilgrim. Pilgrim, is there any way for our listeners to keep up with you after this?
Sure. If you find yourself on a long car ride with a turkey, you can go ahead and put on some headphones and blinders and listen to Pilgrim's Digress. I'm on all the podcast apps and on all the socials. Pilgrim Digress.
Oh, sweet.
Pilgrim's Digress.
And when we say turkey, we're not talking about your mother-in-law.
You're not
Mine? Yours?
That was the royal
Okay.
you, Dr.
Okay.
London. That was
Oh,
intended
okay.
for everyone, not
okay.
you
It was a
specifically.
royal your. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much to Pilgrim for being on. Thank you to
Appreciate it.
our producer Cameron. Thank you to Digital in the House. Sailing High Sail High School.
Turn the boys into seamen.
Sailing High Sail High School.
Turn the boys into seamen.
My name is Dr. LondonSmith.com, and this has been the Jock Doc Podcast.
See ya.